stops, no one knows. We're going head into the unknown. Na, 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 na.
Hello, everybody. Happy Wednesday. Welcome back to Criminality. Or if this is your first time here, welcome to Criminality. Today, we are going to be discussing the interview with Prosecutor Nick McLeland that he did with mainstream media. So I know a few people in chat were asking. I do have some highlights from another interview that we might be discussing that he did with a certain duo that, shall remain nameless. And so we might talk about some of that. The other thing I wanted to do is watch the Court TV episode with you guys that was filmed yesterday, but is actually going to be on YouTube today. So we were going to watch it last night after going through the motion to correct error, and we weren't able to get access to it. So that is on the agenda today. So welcome, everybody. I hope you guys are having a great day. And let me say hi to you guys, and we will get started because we have a lot to go over. So, Vinny's interview, I loved it. Just saying. Okay, good. I heard good things about it. Okay, hey, Chancey. Hey, Christine. And of course, yeah, no problem. Hey, Rochelle. What's up, Miku's headphones? Hi, Caitlin. Judge Jessica. Let me see. What's up, Kelt? Hey, Post-Punk. Hey, Kina. We call them rhinos, nothing but demic. Oh, goodness. Hey, Indiana girl. What's up, Aloha? Radar. Hey, Snappy. Hi, Angel. DB. What's up, DB? What's up, Carry On? Just Dib. Hey, with all. Hi, Christine. Dick hands. We have dick hands? You have dick hands? You got dicks for hands? Somebody said I need to get the hands from you and Ange. Is it the dick hands? So dumb. What's up, Ginger Snaps? Hi, Middle Sister. Hi, the Royal Week. Hi, Andy. Nick looks like he's doing a 1970s Prohibition. You're so dumb. I'm so excited for this guy's thoughts on everything. Yeah. We'll see. Hey, Samantha. Let me see. I know I missed a few of you. Hey, Tiffany. What's up, Radar? Hi, Chief. What's up, Jen? Jen's early. Probably left and now is not here. What's up, Ellie? Hi, Ange. Speaking of headphones, hey, grin for me. Luthi was all over. Was she? I haven't got to watch it yet. All right. I do have it up, but I haven't got to watch it yet. Hey, Princess Buttercup. What's up, Hot Pocket? I haven't got to look. So the reason I was late was because my phone did a forced update. And then so I was like, fine, just do it, whatever. Because normally it'll say install now or install later, and I'll just hit install later and do it for 4 a.m. so I'm not around for it. So I was like, fine, just go ahead and do it. And then all of a sudden it comes on and it's like, this phone is not connected and it won't be able to send text messages and calls. And I'm like, what the fuck? I don't have time for this shit right now. So I'm trying to figure out the phone thing and then trying to get all this stuff up for the live. And I'm just like, Took some Advil because I'm like, this is going to be one of those. What's up, Holy Shnikes? Hey, True Crime Addicted. What's up, Lab Rant? Okay, so question. Do you guys want to start with Nick's interview with mainstream media and the highlights of the duo interview, or do you want to start with the Court TV? Which one should we do first? I have not watched either one. I saw some clips of the Nick Mainstream Media interview on Excited Utterance yesterday, but I haven't got to watch the whole thing. Well, I mean, technically, let's do Vinny first. You want to do Vinny first? Okay. Oh, yeah, Court TV. Everybody's like, Court TV. Okay, so we're going to watch it on the website. There's a premiere of it coming up at 4 o'clock my time, so it's 20 minutes from now, wherever you're at. There's a premiere on YouTube, which I don't want to watch the premiere, so we'll at least start it on the app, because I think that would be easier. We don't have to deal with the YouTube part of it. And so anybody who wasn't here yesterday, just an FYI, we're not doing a reenactment of the other interview as of right now, because the duo that shall remain nameless got a little pissy and they decided they wanted to try to copyright strike the channel for the read-throughs. So those videos are currently down. Some I took down, some the copyright took down, while I have to appeal it. So those are not currently up, so we won't be doing a read-through till I can get an answer from YouTube on what they want to do with the other one. So, just FYI. Just an FYI. Okay. I know, it's fucking illegal. I know it is. It's just, I'm so... Like I said, the amount of time that I had to spend over the weekend trying to go over all the legal parts of my response, I'm just like, this is fucking stupid. It's literally what they do is just a waste of time. But it's a waste of my time, so they probably enjoy that. The irony is there are other channels who do something similar to what we do here, and nobody cares. You know, and if Lawyer You Know with 450,000 subs wants to play something, they'll take the subs, right? They want that. All right, so I'm gonna just play a hot minute of this real quick, or a second of this, and you guys just let me know that you can hear it. They are weenies. They are such little weenies. They're like two dick hands. Yeah, exactly, Nancy. You guys can hear it? Okay, perfect. And Peter's a lawyer, true. True. Okay, you guys are good to go? Okay. So we'll be stopping for commentary. Like I said, I have not seen this. So there was a few of you guys while we were live last night that did go and watch it on the app while it was playing. Okay, let me pull that up real quick. And said it was really good. And we tried to watch it, but it wasn't posted yet for us to go back and watch. Hold on, I gotta save this. That's perfect. That is so good, DB. That is so good. All right, hold on. What is that? What's wrong with his fingers? Does he have webbed fingers? Oh God, I'm gonna have to put it next to the toe. Hey, Ramblin'. What's up, Donnie? Hey, Grayspace. Okay, yo. What's up, Ellie? Okay, hold on. Oh shit. Did you show these on your live yesterday? Because this is too fucking funny. These are like I think I need to like do like a meme with the toe. Am I allowed to show these? You guys are okay with it? Yeah, he's got webbed fingers. That is so fucking weird. Don't do the toe. Okay, hold on. I won't do the toe, but I'm telling you, like this, that is like, maybe it's a weird angle thing. I don't know. Like there's something Is it like, are they webbed? It's like these two are stuck together. This is crazy. That is so weird. I don't know. I bet he can swim really fast. I bet he can. I wonder if he was a good swimmer. They are. They're like webbed. If his fingers are webbed, does that mean his toes are webbed? And that's like so tiny. It's just a tiny little finger. It's got to be the angle, right? Come on. Come on. This is a tiny little finger. It's so tiny. It's so little. Oh no. It's so tiny. Delphi is notorious for the swim team. It's true. I sent you some. Let me see what you said. Hold on. I sent you some. Okay, hold on. Let me go back over here. This is just so. It's so tiny. Hold on. Here's a close up of it. That is weird. That's weird. It's almost like it's a thumb. Does it have another knuckle? Like, does it have two knuckles? That's fucking weird. That is the tiniest little finger. It's so little. It's so tiny. Okay, hold on. Let me go to DBs real quick. This one is perfect though. Hold on. This is like perfect. Did you make was this like in AI, or is this actually from The Simpsons? Because I'm telling you, I mean, that's fucking perfect. How did we get here? I have no idea. This happens. I don't know why. I don't know how this happens. But that's perfect right there. That's an original? Okay. Dude, that hold on, I gotta go back over there. That fucking finger is fucking weird, dude. That little finger. It is, it's like a thumb. I think it's a thumb. Okay, I'm closing out of this. This is what happens. You guys send me weird do you have to stop or I'm gonna be honest. You guys send me stuff and then I get all off track. He's got like it's I could there's so many things to say. There's so many things to say about that. Well, thanks, Rapper. And thanks for coming in and being chill. Nick's fingers. Oh, the tentacles. That's so weird. I don't know. Okay. Anyway, moving on. Let's get back to what we were doing. Oh, hi, Sleepy. Hi. DB like runs all the channels. What's she talking about? He's like, I've got enough channels to take care of. I don't need my own. All right. We're going to play it.
I'm Vinny Politan. The subject of my investigation is the Delphi murder case. Richard Allen has been convicted, but he continues to claim his innocence, fighting for a new trial. Now, this is not unusual, but what is unusual are all the circumstances that led to his conviction. Here's the story.
Hold on, Bill. That is perfect. One guess on how Nick McLeland eats his Snickers. Oh, that's fucking perfect. If you know, you know.
For more than 5 years, it was a mystery, an unsolved case with many leads, suspicious characters, and so many rumors. Investigators released very little information, but journalists, podcasters, and true crime followers all speculated on what happened to best friends Abby Williams and Libby German, two teenage girls living in the small rural community of Delphi, Indiana, a town at the Newcastle Correctional, which was a tip that trial, including evidence they say connects the murder to someone else. This is a case with very little transparency, from the investigation to the trial itself. Cameras were banned, electronics were banned from the courtroom. We heard very little, gag orders throughout. So it's been difficult for members of the public to truly understand all of the evidence in this case and what evidence was actually used to convict Richard Allen. That's because the public, except those people who were able to get inside that courtroom, were shut out from what happened here. I want you to take a look at this. Now, the defendant, Richard Allen, through his attorneys, has filed some papers, and in the exhibit to those papers is a tip narrative, which was a tip that was given in this case on May 15th of 2017, just a few months after the murders. Redacted contacted the FBI public access line unit to report a tip on the Delphi homicide. Ricky Davis is currently incarcerated at the Newcastle Correctional Facility. But he is in the same block
Michael said
as
it was
Ron Logan, owner of the land where the Delphi homicides took place. Logan confessed to Ricky step by step of killing the two girls. Logan told Ricky how he burned his clothes in a fire pit and where it was located. Used box cutters. Remember that part of this. Used box cutters. And struggled with one of the girls and thought drops of blood from his nose ended up on their clothes. Ricky also advised that he killed the older girl first. So Ron Logan is someone who was on the radar before the arrest of Richard Allen, someone a lot of people talked about. Someone who also lied about his alibi that day when he was questioned. So obviously he's sort of in the front of everything. The girls were found on his property as well. But how about this part of the story? Brings us to our first question in our investigation. And it's about Ron Logan. Did Ronald Logan confess?
But he's so into
I get it, folks. I've heard a
I don't
lot
know
of
if you
these.
guys saw, but you know, if you guys aren't aware, but Vinny also has his own channel, just Vinny Politan on YouTube, and so he also did a live today on the Delphi stuff where he's talking. So if you haven't got to watch that, check out Vinny Politan's actual channel, not the Court TV one.
Alleged confessions to other inmates who are trying to get a deal to get out. So they see somebody come in and all of a sudden there's a confession. But looking closer at it and some of the details here, can we answer that question? Joining me on the phone, Court TV senior producer Barbara McDonald, and he wrote a book on the Delphi murders called Forest for the Trees. Chris Todd is with us. Chris, great to see you. I'm so glad that Barbara's here as well. I'm going to go to Barbara first. Barbara, I know you spent a lot of time speaking with Ron Logan. What are your thoughts about this question? Did Ron Logan?
If anybody isn't aware, so Chris Todd actually wrote a book, ironically called Forest for the Trees, about Ron Logan that literally was like released the same day as, not the same day, probably like the same week. I'm probably off by a few days. It was like released like the same week that Richard Allen was arrested. So he writes an entire book on why he believes Ron Logan is guilty, and they arrest Richard Allen. So I know everybody's a fan of Chris Todd. I personally, Chris Todd's been very cool with me, and I gave his book a review on here, and he ended up coming on and chatting, and he was actually way cooler than I ever thought he could be. But he's got his focus. So it is what it is. And look at Vinny's face. That is so bad. That's such a bad pause. That was my pause game's on point.
Logan confess?
I never heard Ron Logan confess. He never confessed to me. However, in the months and months of conversations that he and I had talking about this case, he never said he didn't do it. He always said, they can't prove I did it, which I thought was an interesting distinction.
That's a little strange. That's a strange way to answer that question. You can't prove that I did it. Wait a minute, what does that mean? Chris Todd, your thoughts about this alleged confession from another inmate? We always take it with a grain of salt because I've seen it tons of times, right? But what are your thoughts about what he had to say about this confession? This goes back to May of 2017.
So Candy, he did. He died in, I think it was January of 2022 from complications of COVID. And, but Chris Todd was still writing a book. So. And then Barbara McDonald has really always kind of been on the Ron Logan did it train. I think that once Richard Allen was arrested, she kind of waited around like, hey, we're going to, we'll wait and see what they have to say. But she's always been on Ron Logan also. And let me see what else you guys asked real quick. Does anybody know where Rich? You know what? I actually was reading about him yesterday, and I don't remember reading where he was currently at. But he was incarcerated, I think. Still, I was pulling up my case. Somebody in chat will probably know. No obituary for Ron Logan. Ironically. DB, why do you even put yourself?
Well, I'm just finding out about this because it's saying it's newly discovered, right? Do we have a Brady rule violation? So I'm just reading it. It's scary of what he's saying to this inmate. Obviously, we have to be careful with the inmate telling us this, but how long did they know this? How long was this information with the state? Did they withhold it from the defense team? And to me, working a lot of other cases, you have to be careful what the suspect says, right? When I read that, there's a lot of stuff Ron Logan is kind of hiding, but it is explosive to say the least, for sure.
So here's Ricky Davis's handwritten statement about this alleged confession. Now, this is June 21st, 2017. So again, close in time. Mr. Logan has made reference to the killings in Delphi, Indiana. He told me he was the one who had killed those girls that had got out of hand. He walked with them in the woods to his property, and the girls wanted to turn back. Said something about he grabbed the youngest girl to reassure her it was okay. However, they panicked, and he also panicked. He indicated he ended up cutting the oldest with a box cutter. He went on telling me that he killed both of them because it was took too far. I want to put this next thing up on the screen because we have to put some context into this because there's the mentioning of the box cutters. This is from the trial. Again, no cameras, no microphones, but we have reporters there. This is from a reporter's notebook. The witness, Dr. Roland Kaur, forensic pathologist, believes a box cutter caused the serrated marks on Libby's leftmost wound. Box cutter, that's coming from the prosecution's expert, correct, Barbara? This is the forensic pathologist testifying for the prosecution.
That's right.
Is saying it's a box cutter. Let me ask you this, Barbara. I don't want to miss this piece of it, though, because timing to me is a lot here. At what point did you, who has covered this story in depth for years, when was the first time you ever heard that a box cutter was used in this?
When Dr. Kaur testified at the trial. And he said he had only just come to that realization a few months prior to his testimony.
Wow. Now, give me your reaction now to this confession and the details here, according to Ricky Davis. Again, the inmate, we take it with a grain of salt. What about these details? What's your reaction to that, Barbara?
It's interesting. Ron was known to walk out on the trails and walk his property a lot. He described, according to this inmate, that he was just out and encountered these girls and it got out of hand. Now, the one thing that this confession includes that Ron would be offended by is that he panicked. I don't think he would like anybody to think that he would ever panic, no matter what situation he was ever in. But he was a very complicated man.
Their premiere was starting and I had the link up, so sorry about that. She's saying that because she talked to Ron Logan a lot before he passed away. His house is still there. I don't know about all the outbuildings. I don't know if any of them were taken down or, as far as I know, they're all still there. But don't quote me on that. But I know the house is still there. Yeah, you hear the premiere. I know, because I had it up to play it on YouTube, but I decided to do it this way instead, so I didn't have to deal with YouTube. Let's see if there's any other questions real quick. So she's saying like he wouldn't like the fact that anybody was saying that he had gotten like panicked.
In my months of talking to him about these murders, I never felt that he was for sure not the guy. He said things, and some of the things that he liked to talk about with regard to this case were unsettling for sure. And he was very focused on this case, even when he wasn't talking about it publicly.
Well, and again, you could explain it that, hey,
Ron Logan was very focused on this case, even when he wasn't talking about it publicly. That's interesting.
Hey, the victims are found on his property, right? There can be that explanation. I don't know. I still think it's kind of strange, though, Barbara. I think it's kind of strange when he says, he doesn't say I didn't do it. He says they can't prove it. Those are two different things. That's not guilty versus innocent. In our system, not guilty is you can't prove it. Innocent is I didn't do it.
Right. And he said that repeatedly. Every time he was given the chance to deny that he killed the girls, he would say, they can't prove I did.
Wow. All right, Chris, you were investigating this.
So for anybody who isn't aware, so Ron Logan was arrested because he was actually driving on suspended license, and then he lied about it and so on and so forth. So he had a history of just dumb shit like that. And so he actually was, when he was arrested for that. But so he had an attorney for those charges, but he also hired an attorney because he believed he was going to be charged with the murders of Abby and Libby. So he had a second attorney who happened to be Brad Rosie's partner, and so he had his criminal attorney for this case because he believed he was going to be charged for it.
On the ground, when was the first time you heard about a box cutter being involved in the attack and murder of these two innocent girls?
The box cutter stuff came out pretty recent. It was never talked about. There were thoughts that there were two knives, okay, because the girls had different types of neck wounds. One was a lot longer than the other, okay? And these Leo whistleblowers have told us that, okay? And that stuff I put in my book. I do want to say a couple quick things here.
Sure.
First of all, when Ron Logan's doing that, that's a form of an adopted admission, okay, that can be used in court, okay? Secondly, why are we talking about this now? When we had a video of Bridge Guy with audio tape of him, okay, Ron Logan's search warrant was leaked in 2022 where the FBI kept pointing at him repeatedly, okay? And now we're finding out that this confession was possibly hidden and not brought to the forefront. And I'll say this, it's not just about a confession. When you look at the Bridge Guy video, okay, where's Lois Gibson, who did the report with Robert Ives? They hid that for years, and she said it was Ron Logan on the bridge. Why did the prosecution and the defense not do any real analysis of height, weight, and gait, or use calculus and walk Richard Allen on the bridge? That person in the Bridge Guy video is not 5'4". And there's something else that really gives it away too. I won't say what it is right now. There's something that really gives it away. That bridge guy is Ron Logan.
All right. We're not done with this story. We have to say goodnight to you right now, Chris. You left us with a cliffhanger, but we will cover this again, obviously. And he wrote the book about it.
Yeah, why didn't they do
Barbara
it
McDonald
calculate?
staying with us. Coming up next, was Ron Logan at the scene that night?
All the other men are cleared. We use that word.
Who is all the other men?
That was Barbara McDonald asking that question.
Ponzi scheme. And
So DB or Sleuthy, can one of you guys drop R&M's Ron Logan? Was it? I think it's like a trilogy at this point. Can you drop or just drop her channel?
a deadly poison.
Already convicted.
Mar, you're talking the language my kids talk. They try to teach me all that new lingo. Makes me feel really fucking old, let me just tell you. Do some calculus. Do some calculus and figure it out. Well, you ain't wrong though on the fact that why didn't they do any analysis on the height of the bridge guy? Like they had the money to do it. It's just stupid.
I mean that all the other men are cleared. We use that word.
Who is all the other men?
The other men that were looked at during the course of the investigation that you always said we couldn't say that they're cleared. Can you now say they're cleared?
I may not use that word cleared, but what I can tell you is we don't have any other evidence that ties them to the offense at this time.
Ironic. We don't have any other evidence that ties them to the crime at this time. Except for you have literally the same shit that you have about Richard Allen. That's fucking crazy to me. That's crazy. DB, no, I said if you could drop R&M's Ron Logan videos, because she's way in depth on her research, obviously.
So they're not cleared. Despite the conviction of Richard Allen, it seems other people who were on the radar aren't necessarily cleared, but the prosecutor is clear in what he's saying. I have no evidence to include them, but I have no evidence to exclude them at this time. Well, this time is...
Except for their entire theory of the case is that Richard Allen acted alone. So if you absolutely 100% believe that Richard Allen acted alone and he did this, then there is no... Everybody else is cleared because you've got your guy.
After the conviction of Richard Allen. So let's get back to the notes. Now, this is the sergeant handwritten notes of Ricky Davis, and we have them transcribed on the right. This is how the defense, Richard Allen's defense, transcribed these handwritten notes, but they're really important and significant here. Talking about knowing one of their dads, to walk with them. One of them wanted to turn around. So Abby or Libby apparently wanted to turn around. Grabbed the youngest's shoulder. It's okay. The oldest freaked out. Animals. Walked with them, willing to go check out horses. He, again, meaning Ron Logan, told them he had rabbits in the barn.
Woman, so this is funny. So I was recommended something. So woman says we should get the Ouija board out and see if Ron Logan will talk to us. There on my recommended on YouTube, I got a video to a tarot card reader who was doing tarot cards on Ron Logan. And it's like, I don't have time for this right now. I have too many other videos I need to catch up on. But I was like, this is an interesting, because I know that I think you said that in last night's live too. And then today I got the fucking recommendation.
Walked through the trail in the woods. The oldest was paranoid, didn't want to go. The youngest wanted to see the horses. Pulled box cutter out. Slit oldest one, hit an artery. Youngest scared. Took little girl with him for a while, never said where. He left again, came back later in evening, search going on. Later on late hours, tried to move oldest one to area not going to be found. Are you following this now? So from the handwritten notes, it's not just this box cutter. It's also that he's moving them at night, which brings us to the next question in our investigation. Was Ronald Logan?
There's no actual proof that there's a gun. I mean, we haven't got to see the video outside of the people in the courtroom. So, and some say they hear a gun cock, some other ones say that they don't. And obviously that's on the enhanced version. So we don't even know if there is an actual gun involved in the crime. That's just the part of the state's theory of the case. So that's also interesting. But then there is something later about guns, but I think it has to do with the search of his house. But it's under it's really you can't even understand it in the notes.
At the scene that night. And we know the prosecution theory is that the girls are murdered in the afternoon.
Great point, DB.
Early to mid-afternoon. But was Ron Logan at the scene that night?
Yes, Amy.
Let me take a look at a couple more things I have for you here, folks, because this is interesting.
Hey, Big JD.
This is from the affidavit for a search warrant on Ron Logan's property. I said he was on the radar. So there was a search warrant for his property. And what did they put in their sworn affidavit to get that search warrant? Logan's cell data showed around 10:16 p.m., February 13th, 2017, he received a text message while outside his residence in the area of Abby and Libby's bodies at night. Okay? Ron Logan is outside of his home that night, at least his phone is, near the area of Abby's and Libby's bodies. One more thing I want you to look at here. This is from court documents. At trial, Mr. Allen, the defendant, okay, this is defendant's evidence. The defendant introduced evidence through the testimony of Stacy Eldridge, a digital and mobile forensics expert. So this is a defense expert, that someone plugged wired headphones into the auxiliary jack of Libby German's phone at 5:44 p.m. on February 13th, 2017, and unplugged it at 10:32 p.m. the same day.
Woman, I don't even do it anymore. Can't do it. It's just ridiculous. It's like, and then they try to convince you. I'm like, you can work on it all you want to. I've got my own thoughts.
So this is the defense expert. This isn't prosecution evidence. I'm sure they don't agree with it, but you've got someone at the scene at 10:32.
Shiloh, and you want to answer? Yeah, he was a big guy. I think he was 6'2". Somebody will know exactly. And he worked on his farm all the time. So he was still, he was older, but he was in really good shape. And then they have the interviews of him where he's absolutely able to go up and down the hills without a problem. So he was still working.
Was Ron Logan at the scene that night? Still with me, Barbara McDonald, and joining me, another person who was in the courtroom for the Delphi Murders trial, criminal defense attorney and host of the Defense Diaries podcast, Bob Motta. All right.
Hey, Bob, what's up,
putting
Bob?
these pieces together, Barbara, I'll begin with you. I've got now in this alleged confession that he makes, he's talking about being there at night.
A mountain of a man.
Did anyone know that? Was this public knowledge that people knew Ron Logan was out that night?
Was Bob going to a concert? What's going on with this? Fancy.
No, his story has always been
Bob.
that when he got home from the fish store with the fish that he had purchased, he spent the evening indoors getting that tank ready and putting the fish in it. He did not go and attempt to search. That evening, Pat Brown did stop by his house and asked for permission to go on his property and search, and he gave Pat that permission. But as far as Ron always told it, he was home all night.
All right, Bob Motta, if he says he's home all night and the cell phone data says he's out near the bodies at 10:16, and he lied about his alibi. So now you've got him lying about his alibi, right? You've got him lying about where he is that night. What are your thoughts about where Ron Logan was?
Well, I mean, the biggest problem with the whole Ron Logan thing is that the girls were found on his property. So, you know, and
Bob, that is not a nexus. Just ask Goal.
the reason that Judge Gull was able to exclude the third party culprit as to the Odinist stuff was this nexus. I mean, I can't think of a bigger nexus than the fact that the bodies were found on Ron Logan's property. And then when you couple that with the fact that he lied about his alibi, and you've got a real problem. You know, it would seem to me it's near impossible for him to say that he wasn't at the crime scene because the crime scene was his property.
Yeah, Bob, and what I'm looking at here, like if this was evidence against Ron Logan, if Ron Logan was the one on trial, this is evidence prosecutors would be using to prosecute him. He lied about his alibi, ladies and gentlemen. He said he was inside with his fish all night. Yet his cell phone is near Abby and Libby, right? So where did Ricky Davis come from, this inmate, with this alleged confession? Did anyone know about this beforehand? Bob?
I had not heard about him. I've talked to other inmates, though, who have similar stories.
Oh, see, Barb didn't even know about Reese Davis. Interesting.
But you haven't heard of this guy. Bob, where did this guy come from?
This was in the tips. It was in the Orion database. So when they were just digging through 15,000 tips that were all, you know, called in from various sources or that were picked up through various sources, and they were digging through them to prepare this motion, this kind of just bombshell information came out. I mean, I don't know anybody that was more kind of in contact with Ron Logan than Barb.
Right.
Frankly, and like, Barb, was this a shock to you?
Absolutely, yeah.
So this sort of comes out of left field. It's in a pile of 15,000 tips, but it's not just a tip. I mean, it's an alleged jailhouse confession, Barbara. This is like a different level. It's not like, hey, I saw a blue car driving down the street. This is somebody said they did it and gave me details.
Right. And a man who was known to have lied about his alibi and couldn't account for where he was during the time frame that the girls were abducted. And he did make it to the fish store that afternoon, and he did have a purchase from the fish store. I spoke to the clerk. He had his receipt. He definitely made it there. But what time he made it there, nobody knows. You can't prove it.
Well, they can't prove anything when it comes to Ron Logan, apparently, and he was right about that. Barbara McDonald in the middle.
He's like, Ron Logan was right. They can't prove he did it.
Of this story, thank you so much. Bob Mott is going to stick with us. When we come back, is the state's timeline correct?
No. We already know that. But... Wait, what? Hold on. That Ron Logan is? That's weird because remember in Holman's interview, he actually says that Ron Logan has a solid alibi for the time of the murders, which he didn't, which is the whole reason that they were focused on him at the beginning. Yeah, the time is printed. So I think everybody just kind of estimated how long he was in the store based on the clerk at the store, and then how long it would have taken him to drive there. But I don't understand, like, where is there anything about Ron Logan pinging somewhere else? What? Where's that info? Oh, hold on.
Case, which has many people still examining what happened. Here's the story.
I got it in a moment.
Teenagers Abby Williams and Libby German were best friends living in the small rural community of Delphi.
He was on the phone, so he pinged. I'd have to pull up the documentation, or if Ange is still in chat, she'll know probably time just off the top of her head. He's pinging near the bridge at 2:06 p.m. Don't quote me on that time, everybody. So we know that he's 2:09. 2:09, okay. And then, so we know he's still at his property. Even if you want to say we don't know exactly where he pinged at, we know that he's still at his property at 2:09 p.m., which is, 2:13 is when the video of Bridge Guy is taken. So Pizza King, he was at like a week or so later and on camera, like on surveillance. But I don't remember the exact date. Hey, all eyes. He went to the transit station, but that was also earlier in the day. So that would be before the girls were even at the bridge. So once again, nothing solidifying that he had an actual alibi at the time of the state's murders, or the timeline of the state when the state says the murders happened. Bye, Ange. Thank you for hanging out. I went to the dump transfer station around noon, as I recall. See, I thought it was more around 11, but either way, we know it was beforehand.
Indiana. On February 13th, 2017, the girls had a day off from school, so they decided to go on an outdoor adventure. They were dropped off near the Monon High Bridge, and while on that bridge, Libby...
Hearing this, where is this coming from? That Kathy Shanks I've heard that she's related to Ron Logan. I don't have any idea if any of that's true. I've also heard that they were friends. Is there somewhere that comes out that I missed? Because I did not hear that. Does anybody know where that's coming from? Where this whole Kathy is just like close to? They were friends, but how do we know that? Where's that coming from? Her daughter tweeted that she is honor bound to Ron Logan. What the fuck does that mean? Okay. Yes, I haven't followed anything her daughter said. So that makes okay. I'll go over there, Thomas. Thank you. Let me play.
Recorded a man with her phone uttering the words, "Down the hill." It was down the hill where Libby and Abby would be murdered. Prosecutors say the man on the bridge is responsible, and that man is Richard Allen. But Allen and his attorneys say prosecutors have it all wrong. They say Allen is innocent, and it was someone else on the bridge that day who took the lives of these two innocent girls. But at the trial, the jury agreed with the prosecutors, and Allen was convicted and will spend the rest of his life in prison unless the defense can get the conviction tossed. And that's what they are attempting to do, pointing at evidence which was excluded and alleged false statements made to the jury by prosecutors about what happened and when it happened. So now Richard Allen waits as his attorneys try to get him another chance.
Now, Richard Allen was convicted in large part by his own words, or as the defense might say, his own alleged words, because of confessions that were made and things that he said to others that others then told the jury. So the question is, did he do this? Well, the jury was convinced beyond any and all reasonable doubt that he did. But he's still claiming his innocence. His attorneys are fighting for a new trial with
new evidence and the ability to present evidence that wasn't permitted at the first trial. Now, going back to that first trial, this is from a reporter's notebook. Again, cameras, microphones banned by the judge. The witness, Dr. Monica Waller, who was Richard Allen's prison psychologist. And this is Richard Allen's alleged confession about the day of the murders that he told to the doctor. He saw the girls on the trails and followed them across the bridge. Mentioned doing something with his gun and thought the bullet fell out. He told the girls down the hill and cross the creek. He wanted to sexually assault them, but didn't because he saw a van. That's an important part of what we're going to be talking about now. So pay attention to that. He wanted to sexually assault them, but didn't because he saw a van. Cut their necks, covered their bodies in branches, and stayed off the trails to exit to avoid being seen. So let's go now to the state's timeline and map of what they say happened when they were trying this case and convicted Richard Allen. 1:49 p.m., Abby and Libby are dropped off across from Mears Farm, which is located on the north side of County Road 300 North, near the entrance of the trails. 2:13 p.m., video from Libby's cell phone shows the girls encountered a man on the southeast portion of the Monon High Bridge.
Thank you, Carrie. Welcome to the new members. Thank you for that. Those are the DNA. Yeah, I do. I also have it on Twitter. I think I actually have it pinned on Twitter. Did Richard Allen also get witness carrying a fucking saw that he used to cut the branches? Oh. Yeah, the van didn't pass until 15 minutes after the girls. Yep. That's right. Let me see what else. Hey, Mother of Dragons. Hey, Al.
Prosecutors say Richard Allen abducts Abby and Libby and forces them down the hill to the south side of Deer Creek, where he is going to sexually assault them.
Mm-hmm.
The times are important here. This is a timeline. 2:30, Richard Allen's sexual assault is interrupted when Brad Weber's van passes by on the access road as Weber is driving home from work. 2:30 p.m., the van. 2:32 p.m., the van causes Allen to take Abby and Libby across Deer Creek to Ron Logan's property. Liberty German's phone.
Well, he's kind of off on that because it would have been before that, because 2:32 the phone stops moving according to the state, and that's when they would already be over here. So that's a little off.
Stops moving at 2:32 p.m. and the state contends that's when the girls have been killed. So the girls are killed at 2:32. They put together the pieces of this timeline. Brings us to the next question in our investigation.
They did find animal hairs on the shoes of both girls.
Is the state's timeline correct?
No.
Is it correct?
No.
Is there anything in this timeline that doesn't jive with the evidence in the case? Joining me, the YouTube live streamer behind Gray Hughes Investigates. He's followed this case extremely closely and I call him the king of timelines. Gray Hughes is with us. And someone who was in the courtroom for the Delphi Murders trial, criminal defense attorney and host of the Defense Diaries podcast, Bob.
Did he put them on at the same time? He never does that.
Mata. Okay, I want to introduce something that was referenced in a defense filing, which is some surveillance video. Let's take a look at it, because this surveillance video apparently captures or allegedly captures that van, that white Econoline van on 2/13/2017. Notice the time, 2:44.
Oh, shit.
And 33 seconds. 2:44 and 33 seconds is when this van is allegedly seen driving on that road. Okay, let me start with you, Gray.
Oh,
I don't know what you're seeing in this video.
Yeah.
If this is Weber's van at 2:44, does that mean that the timeline of the state is incorrect here?
It does mean that there's like a portion of it that wouldn't be accurate. I would say that you'd have to, it just changes when he was startled by the van.
No, it can't.
So you've got, when you look at the time on the clock, they said it's 12 hours off. Do we know that if it's 12 hours off, how do we know it's not 12 hours and 20 minutes off?
Oh,
so somebody needs to do some investigation into what was the actual time of that video. But let's say it is Weber's van driving by at 2:44. So what that would mean is, in Richard Allen's statement, he said he went down the hill and he was going to assault them down below. This is a little bit of a correction to the timeline that you had on your screen.
Sure.
He had him go down the screen. I mean, down the
hill,
and then he was going to assault them down below. But then he got startled while he was down below. Then he crossed the creek. That's what his story was.
So great.
Okay, so that makes, that part of his story wouldn't be accurate. I've always thought that he crossed the creek, then he saw the van. That's before the testimony of trial. That I thought he crossed the creek and was startled by the van while he was at the crime scene. And the phone actually stops moving from 217, I believe, or 218 to 225. Then at 225 to 232, it seems to cross the creek and then go up the bank as we get an elevation shift on the watch. And that's when or the phone, I mean, and that's when it stopped moving. All right, so it stopped moving. So it could still be that they were made to go up the hill. The phone was put on the ground. And then 13 minutes later, they were killed by Richard Allen, or maybe it just kept going on and on. Because the thing is if you believe Betsy Blair, Sarah Carbaugh,
is he nervous?
That she saw him walking. I don't actually put any, I don't put any weight to Sarah Carbaugh. That's like an hour later.
Right.
So what was he doing at the crime scene all that time?
Let me go to Bob on this. All right, Bob. There was also some FBI subject information sheet, which seemed to indicate that Weber's phone pings to his parents' address overlooking the crime scene initially at 2:50 p.m.
Let's go, Bob.
What are your thoughts about the timeline now in light of this video, if the timestamp is accurate on that video?
I think if the timestamp on the video is accurate, it absolutely destroys the state's timeline. And the reason is this: probably the most powerful words that came out of Nick McLeland's mouth during that entire trial was the last things that he said to that jury, and that was that these two girls solved their own murders. And Nick decided to say that Abby, in her last act on this planet, was to hide the phone underneath herself, which would mean that that would have happened at 2:32 in the afternoon. And this completely destroys that. Completely. There's no way around that theory being wrong. You can't have it both ways.
I got
you. Fucking love Bob. God, I love that guy. That is, I'm great. Perfect. Somebody must have fed Bob before this interview. He's like, no, the timeline is fucking trash.
We're out of time right now. We are going to continue this conversation, though, Gray. I know you've got to come back, but I'm on a tight schedule tonight. Yeah. All right, I'll give you 15 seconds, Gray. 15 seconds. Promise.
All right. Why didn't the defense bring that up at trial? Because they know that it places the white van right there during the crime, and they didn't want to bring it up at trial. They've had it the whole time. So you might want to ask yourself that question.
Okay. Gray Hughes, Bob Mata, appreciate your perspectives. Thank you so much. Still to come. Should Richard Allen get a new trial?
I wish you could watch this last night.
Why did you do it?
Well, he doesn't have to have the last word because he had the most impactful words. It's done. The state had the evidence, liar, liar, pants on fire. Yeah. So it's ironic that he asked this question because I specifically, if you guys haven't watched last night's video, I specifically asked Michael Osbrook this, and asked him like the legal reasons on why the prosecutor is actually the one who has to bring up this versus the defense, because I had seen this across the social medias yesterday was, if the defense did it, why didn't the defense bring it up? So I had asked him that. Hold on. Night, Seth. And he specifically answered that it's it's on the prosecution to correct it. So either they're eliciting false testimony or they know, Bob, you did such a good job. We're not even done yet. I am so proud of you. So proud. So I said, somebody must have fed you before you went on court TV. But that it's on the prosecution to have to either they're eliciting false testimony or they're allowing false testimony because they're the ones that are calling Brad Weber and using this van as their, the one thing only the killer would know, which is now fucking gone. Did he? Okay, I haven't got to watch his yet today, so I'll watch it. He didn't even need a Bob signal. All right, let's keep going.
Today is the day, and we reached it.
Without this verdict, we would have been lost still, and it would have been a heavy load that a burden that we couldn't carry.
Well, in the eyes of the jury, the prosecution carried that burden, and Richard Allen was convicted beyond a reasonable doubt of the murders of Abby and Libby.
Yep.
But it was a very unusual trial, very unusual case. There were things that I saw and heard that I'd never seen or heard before in a criminal case. And we cover them all over the country here on Court TV. So that brings us to the next question in our investigation. Should Richard Allen get a new trial?
Yippee chick.
Who better than to answer that than the defense team that worked so tirelessly and passionately in his defense? Two of the attorneys were on Richard Allen's defense team for his trial. Andrew Baldwin joins us on the phone. And also joining us, Jennifer Auger and Bradley Rosie. Great to have you all here tonight. Thank you so much. It's a simple question, but it's not so simple, is it, right? Who wants to go first on should Richard Allen get a new trial? I'll ask Andrew. He's on the phone. I'll ask him first. Andrew?
Absolutely. Obviously, I think anybody that pays attention to this case knows how we all feel. I particularly feel, having done the majority of the work on the Franks memo that kind of gave rise to the third-party suspect, and then everything that happened after it was filed that furthered our theory that third parties were responsible for these murders.
So let me ask you, Jennifer, what is the process here? What is the road for Richard Allen to get a new trial?
Well, we filed our motion to correct errors yesterday. The judge can, if she doesn't rule, it's deemed automatically denied. She could set it for a hearing, or she could deny it without a hearing. Once that is ruled on, then we have great appellate attorneys, and they'll file their notice of appeal, and they'll take over the case from there.
So Brad, what sort of timetable are we looking at? And is Indiana law on your side with some of the issues that you've raised here?
Yeah, so I think the expectation in terms of a direct appeal is that this will take anywhere from, probably 18 months to maybe 2 years, give or take. It's not a quick process, but that's what we're thinking. Indiana law is on our side, especially as it relates to third-party culpability. You just can't strip a man or a woman, for that matter, of their ability to point to other suspects if there is some materiality to those suspects and their potential involvement. And in this case, I'm quite confident that that's what the appellate courts are going to sink their teeth into, and frankly should sink their teeth into first and foremost. And I believe that is, I don't want to get into all the detailed terms, structural error, fundamental error, whatever kind of error you want to call it, but it's the kind of error that gets you new trials. And I think that Richard Allen will get a new trial.
Andrew, you know, we cover trials all over the country. And going into this case, I was expecting a different trial than we ended up reporting on. We didn't see it, but we reported on it. We had people there. You talk about third-party culpability. In this case, I was looking at third party, fourth party, fifth party, sixth party. I was expecting to hear bits and pieces about a whole bunch of people because I've been covering this story for years. But none of that ended up in the trial?
Yeah, we were pretty much cut off at the knees on, you know, allowing the jury to see what we think they deserve to see and would want to see, which is all of the very strong evidence that links third-party suspects to that crime scene and to the crime. And some of the people are more closely related than others, but many of them are all kind of linked together in some way. That three really terrific officers, Kevin Murphy, Greg Ferenczi, and Todd Click, all looked into, and all, you know, and one of them even hired a lawyer because he thought maybe Richard Allen was the wrong guy and that he didn't understand how the police had arrested him with all the other evidence that was so strong against other third parties.
Jennifer, is there an explanation as to why this case went the way it did? And what I mean is,
does anybody know if Rosie's still using his daughter's pretty pink MacBook for this interview?
This evidence not coming in, lawyers being taken off a case when their client wants them. I've never covered a case in Indiana before, I'll be honest with you. I've never covered a state there. You just started to permit cameras, so Court TV hasn't spent a ton of time there. It's not that we don't love you guys. Was this unusual for Indiana, or is it just unusual to me because I haven't covered cases in Indiana?
Well, look, my first job was a public defender in Atlanta. I practice in Georgia, I practice in Virginia, and I've been practicing in Indiana since 1999. And this is unusual anywhere. You know, throwing attorneys off the case. And again, there's so many suspects where the evidence is stronger pointing to those suspects than to Richard Allen. You know, nothing about this case was anything I think that any of us have ever experienced.
Now, Brad, I can't opine on my thoughts on whether or not Richard Allen did it or didn't do it because I didn't get to see the trial, okay? I didn't get to see it. I didn't go to Indiana. Like, we had someone there, but I wasn't personally there. But what shocked me from reading court filings and from covering the case is that Richard Allen was someone who was never on the radar in this case. And the first time we heard his name is when he was arrested. Did the jury understand that? Did the jury have any idea that this was an unsolved case for years and there were a whole bunch of other people and no one was talking about Richard Allen?
Yeah. Yeah, well, Richard Allen actually was on the radar because he held himself out to law enforcement officials within just a day or two after the girls were found. So, in fact, he, on his own volition, did seek out law enforcement and put himself on the map, so to speak. So he was on the radar. But in terms of what the jury heard, yeah, they certainly were aware that he did what he did, that he tried to assist the investigation, and that essentially that the police overlooked, in their mind, a tip for many, many years and discovered that later, which prompted them to get focused back on him and then ultimately arrest him. So, yeah, the jury heard, I think, a pretty full version or narrative of how that all unfolded.
Andrew, you now have a legendary quote that we talk about in our newsroom all the time. Journalism. We got a clip of you storming through the courtroom, looking at a camera and saying it's time for some journalism. Is that happening now relative to this story, to this case, from your perspective?
No, I don't think so. I mean, there's a lot of tough questions that no journalists are asking the prosecution.
What are they?
For example, well, one of them is Todd Click sent what I would label as exculpatory evidence through his attorney by certified mail to the prosecutor's office. They signed for it on May 1st, 2023. And then we never knew anything about that for 4 months until the prosecution knew that we were going to ultimately find that information out. So I think one of the questions I would want somebody to ask the prosecution is, why didn't you turn that over more quickly? That's there's a lot of that kind of information related to missing videos. But what happened? And there's a crime scene, a mimics crime scene image that was found on one of the third-party suspects' social media pages. That I have many friends. None of them have images of girls on a forest floor posed on their social media, which mimics in large part what the crime scene looked like. And that is missing as well. We had to drive down to Georgia to get that crime scene image, and nobody's ever explained why it's missing. And everything that seems to be missing is related to the third-party suspect, evidence. And we just haven't, nobody's bothered to ask those tough questions to the lead detective or to the people in charge of the evidence. And so that's just the tip of the iceberg.
Well, Andrew, I'll promise you this. If we get the prosecutors on, I'm going to ask those questions. I will. I want to thank you all. Andrew Baldwin, Jennifer Auger, and Brad Rosie. Thank you.
To see Vinny talking to Nick McLeland, prosecutor to prosecutor. He would, I don't think he would do it. But that would be, that would be fire.
Thank you so much. We appreciate your valuable time. Richard Allen was convicted. That's a fact. I didn't see the trial because the judge chose to ban cameras and electronic reporting from inside the courtroom. That's another fact. The defense was barred from presenting the evidence they wanted in front of the jury. That's a fact. Did Richard Allen have a fair trial? I'll tell you what, that's now a fair question.
Ooh.
I'm Vinny Politan.
Yes, you
we'll
are.
keep digging for the answers as the investigation continues.
I can't believe it's over already. I feel like we should have more. So, well, according to what we've heard on the social media streets, is that Holman was told by his new supervisor that there would be no more interviews until everything kind of got settled. So, the picture that was on Brad Holder's Facebook page, where they say it's similar to the crime scene. Essentially, it's two people laying in the woods covered in sticks. They're pretending to be dead, but there was some back and forth on actually if they were dead. But eventually, we find out that they were pretending to be dead and they were covered in sticks. So to this day, the prosecution never actually turned that photo over in discovery. The only reason the defense ever had it was because they went and got it from the person who had found it on social media that originally had called it in as a tip. So it is on now. It's out there. You can find it out there now. But so that actually never got turned over in discovery. And when the defense brought that to Judge Gold's attention, Nick was essentially like, well, what does it matter? You guys have it now. So it doesn't even matter whether we turned it over or not. And it's like, no, it actually does matter because you're responsible for turning over all of discovery. Well, that kind of sucks. I thought there'd be more, Bob. Okay. So let me see. Since we're on Vinny right now, we'll pop over to Vinny's actual channel, and we'll just listen to a little bit of that. Because here he's a little more spicy. I'm actually surprised he wasn't more spicy on that live, but I do like that he's like, I promise you, Andy, if we get them on here, I'll ask the questions. You think that the prosecutor in this type of case is doing interviews? He interviews with a very small local media journalist, and then he interviews with a podcast. Why wouldn't you want to go on court TV? That's like, if you're doing the media rounds, isn't that where you'd want to go, is somewhere where you can have an actual intelligent conversation with somebody else who was an attorney?
Absolutely shocking. This is shocking. This is newly uncovered, shocking confession, and it's not the man who was convicted. It's the man whose property the victims were found on. His name is Ron Logan. He was a person of interest in the beginning. He is someone who was investigated. They executed a search warrant of his property. He lied about where he was that day. Made up an alibi. Tried to get someone to lie for him about his alibi that day. That is who this new information is about. Ron Logan. Folks, I've got to apologize. I'm a little late. This is insane. My blood sugar crashed just before I was about to go on after a workout this morning. So I may have to stop. I may have to continue to intake glucose, but this is too important. This is too radically shocking. That we've got
Barb was on at the beginning of that episode with Bob and talked a little bit about it. I wonder if they'll add any type of podcasts to the Down the Hill podcast now that the trial's over. I mean, because there's so much more she can say now.
Confession from the man whose property the girls were found, the victims in the case. There's more. And there is more. I'm going to cover it in this live stream. I'm Vinny Politan, and this is Vinny Live.
Yeah. Get ready.
Day. Ron Logan is someone who...
This is his audio, not mine, FYI. I don't know what's going on. I don't know why his audio's on.
She was on my show last night, Barbara McDonald. She's a Court TV senior producer. And she spoke to this guy for hours and hours and hours. So I asked her, I said, did Ron Logan confess to you? She said, no, never confessed to me. What he said to me was, they can never prove I did it. What?
Right.
What? They can never prove I did it versus I didn't do it? You see, I didn't do it is in a court of law. That's like saying I'm innocent. They can't prove I did it. That's like not guilty. And there's a difference between not guilty and innocent, right? There's no difference for the purposes of if you've been accused of a crime. However, they can't prove I did it. Like if someone asked you if you did this and you said, well, they can't prove I did it. What does that mean? What on earth does that mean?
I fucking love Vinny. So what does that mean?
This guy said. That's what he said. That's what he said to Barbara McDonald, who spoke to him and walked the property with him, etc. You know, she always got a little bit of a strange feeling spending time with this guy. But wow. Okay. So what exactly?
Who dis? This has been my question since that Holman interview, where Holman comes out and says that Lesenby was in charge, that Carroll County Sheriff was actually the lead. How the hell does Doug Carter tell the FBI to go away then? Doesn't make sense to me.
Exactly is this new confession? I'm going to walk through it. Now, it comes from defense papers, but it comes from defense papers based upon digging through all of the tips. So somewhere in this pile of tips that they've been going through, they found this. Okay, so let's take a look.
He's just like, oh my gosh.
I'm going to walk through this. I can make myself smaller here so we can see this. Here we go. Okay. 5/15/2017. That's the first important thing you have to understand.
Let's see if it sounds normal if I speed him up a little bit.
5/15 is just a few months after all this. While it's still an unsolved crime, a high-profile unsolved crime in Indiana, in Delphi. Ricky Davis, Department of Corrections number 114393. He's currently incarcerated. Okay. So let's start here. Excuse me while I chew. It's just glucose. Again, feeling a little lightheaded.
No, it
ain't. I had juice.
I had juice. I'm just waiting for it to take effect, but I didn't want to delay the live stream even more. Uh-oh. My audio is low quality? Is that better? Is my audio better? People are saying low quality audio. Is the audio better?
My oldest son is a type 1 diabetic.
Is my
so
audio good?
It's interesting to like watch somebody like Vinnie Politan who
How
talks
is my audio? People are
about it.
complaining about the audio. Should I listen? Should I listen myself? Oh my goodness, my microphone. What's wrong? I'm
This
playing
goes
with
on
my
forever?
microphone.
Okay.
My step of unaliving the two girls. Logan told Ricky how he burned his clothes in a fire pit and where it was located, used box cutters, struggled with one of the girls, thought drops of blood from his nose ended up on their clothes. Ricky also advised that
No, I think it was Andy.
he, meaning Ron Logan, unalived the older girl first. Lang said Ricky wants nothing from this but justice for the girls. So Ricky's incarcerated, calls someone who then contacts the tip line, okay? So the tip line. So this is like double hearsay at this point. But there's more. There's more to it. So there are actual notes from an actual, make sure I'm in the right spot here. Okay. What you're looking at right now, where is it? Okay. What you're looking at right now
he refuses to wear one. It's a fight all the time.
Is the defense, again, it's a little bit slow because my head, I gotta get the blood sugar back up. The defense transcribed handwritten notes that were taken from an interview with Ricky Davis, who is the inmate housed with Ron Logan, who says Ron Logan confessed to him. Now, I always say this, take every jailhouse confession with a huge grain of sodium chloride, right? Is that what it is, sodium chloride? Salt, huge grain of salt. Why? Because they're always looking for something. Now, this guy said he didn't want anything but justice for the girls. But Scorpion is saying he can't hear me. What's going on here? Some people say they can't hear me. What is going on? Oh, Sub Russ, oh, heck, this isn't new. Sub Rosa saying, heck, this isn't new. Well, it's from a new filing from the defense. All right, people can hear me. Some can't. I don't know. I can't figure that out.
He's like, I don't have time for that. I don't have time to deal with the sound.
The newness of this.
Sure don't.
The defense just filed a motion to preserve the evidence. They want evidence preserved in this case. What they're saying is that Ron Logan confessed to another inmate. Jailhouse confessions.
Yes,
Should we trust jailhouse confessions, right? That's what this is all about, right? So this is a jailhouse confession.
He's not dead. He's still behind bars.
Okay. So I might have the wrong mic. Is this the mic that's on? Boom, boom, boom. Is that the mic that is providing the feed here? It's a little muffled. You got to turn it up today. I don't think I can fix it at this point.
Fucking hitting the mic.
I don't know what happened. All right. So this is the microphone. Okay. So this microphone's not working right now. That's maddening to me. As to why that would happen. Can I fix that? I might be able to fix that.
All right, let's skip ahead. Wow.
Can you hear me now? Can you hear me now? This is crazy. Now it's back. You can hear me now?
He is kind of bad at YouTube, but it's funny.
I can't figure it out.
I like him anyway.
This is beyond my abilities on a low blood
It is Vinny, yeah.
So let's get to the content. Let's get to the meat of all of this, okay? The meat is, we're talking about jailhouse confession. But don't forget, Richard Allen was convicted on a jailhouse confession. So if you're going to give that confession some weight, let's take a look at this jailhouse confession as well by Ron Logan.
I don't know if anything beats Bob and Allie's very first live stream, though. That was the best.
Months, just months after is when this is reported. This is May of 2015. So we are looking at transcribed notes, transcribed by the defense of some it was cursive, so it was difficult to really decipher, but they deciphered it. Okay.
He's so animated.
All right. They claim that he started talking, that it was ironic, and that they should have been in school. Ron Logan says to one of the girls that he knew one of their moms who waitressed at a bar. I don't know, maybe it's true, maybe it's not. Was talking about animals, walked with them, and they were willing to go check out the horses. Ron Logan owns horses in a barn. He told them he also had rabbits in the barn and that they walked through the trail in the woods. The oldest, or at least who appeared the oldest to Ron Logan, didn't want to go, was paranoid. The youngest wanted to see the horses. So this is what's being described in this alleged confession by the other inmate. The oldest turned to help the youngest. The oldest started looking and kicking. The youngest seen, now he grabs the oldest. He said he got hit on the nose and he got blood on one of the girls. So the girls are fighting back. He pulled out a box cutter. Box cutter. This is in 2017. In 2017, nobody even knows how they died. None of that was public.
No, he was still locked up.
Let alone the instrument that was used. The testimony of the expert from the prosecution at the trial was that it was a box cutter. And then there was testimony that Richard Allen had a whole bunch of box cutters. Well, before that, you've got an inmate saying that Ron Logan said he used a box cutter. And this is back in 2017. That's the significance of this. The instrument that was used and how they died. Nobody knew how they died. This was not public information. So either Ron Logan is confessing or this inmate is making this up and guessed right on the instrument that was used and how the girls were taken.
Thanks,
He also
Janet.
said he took the little girl with him for a while, never said where. He said he cut her, both necks. Okay? This is either a guess by the inmate who is making this up to try to get some deal for whatever reason, or Ron Logan is telling him this information. It continues. He left again, came back later in the evening while the search was going on. Later on, late hours, tried to move the oldest one to the area where he's not going to be found. Place where four-wheelers go. Burned his clothes in a burn pile, hiking, walking, boots, gloves, bag. Okay. Okay, so now let's examine this. All of this stuff could be either corroborated or disproved. All of it. That's all from these notes in this confession. So this is pretty significant evidence. It's evidence the jury didn't hear. It's evidence the jury was not permitted to hear. They weren't permitted to hear anything about Ron Logan. So how much of a problem is that? Is that fair? Now, let me just say, and I want this to be very clear. I've been saying this whole time. I have no opinion on who committed this crime because I didn't see the trial because the judge banned cameras and microphones from the courtroom, despite the fact that Indiana changed the law to allow cameras and microphones inside of the courtroom.
And
that judge chose not to allow. It also chose to not allow electronics inside the courtroom. So the only thing you can get the transcripts now. But let me tell you, transcripts are much different than watching a trial. Much different. Extremely different. I can't see and hear the evidence.
I heard someone today saying that the reason that he would know any of this, though, was because he was watching the news while he was in jail. So that's how he knows some of this stuff. And that it obviously can't be true because how would Ron Logan know that Libby was older? That was the other, this can't be real because how would Ron Logan know that Libby was older? That was the other big reason that this has to be bullshit. I was like, dang, talk about reaching.
Can't come up with an opinion based on what's inside the court. I just know the things that have been excluded. And number one, I'm shocked that they were. Shocked. And now you get into this confession. Well, what makes this confession less credible than the confession of Richard Allen? Now remember, Richard Allen, before he was incarcerated, denied all of it, right? So he didn't confess on the outside. He confessed. It's a jailhouse confession. So now we got to weigh the jailhouse confessions, but the jury only gets to hear one. Only gets to hear about one person's alleged confession versus someone else's alleged confession. Again, I'm not opining on this, on who did it, because I haven't seen all the evidence, but this is evidence that a jury, at a minimum, should know about.
Yep.
In deciding a case. Let's talk about what's important about coming back later in the evening. Again, from prosecution or investigators' evidence to execute a search warrant of Ron Logan's property. They had to file an affidavit, a sworn statement. And one of the sworn statements was that Ron Logan at 10:16 that night, his phone was out on the property near where the girls were found.
Mm-hmm.
At 10:16. So in this alleged confession,
there's
Ron
no
Logan,
way that anybody would have known that Ron Logan walked back out there, and then it just so happens that the phone data matches that, which is interesting, because somebody had sent me one of Robert Ives's interviews, and in there he's talking about like different cases, and he's talking about how this case will be easier because it has DNA and the phones. And like, so this case should be easier to solve. And I was like, well, but they don't actually have DNA or anything to do with the phones for this case. So what exactly was Robert Ives talking about?
according to this inmate, is saying that he came back later in the night and his phone was there later in the night. Right? Like, is that something the jury should hear? Because let me tell you, if they had charged Ron Logan in this case, all of this would be admissible. They didn't charge Ron Logan. They can't charge Ron Logan because Ron Logan is no longer alive.
So I was talking about this the other day too. You know, people are like, well, wouldn't it just be really easy, you know, if they were just looking for a patsy to blame this on and just to get the arrest because, you know, the whole, you know, Liggett needed to be elected as sheriff, and so he needed this big win and to solve on the Delphi case. Why wouldn't they just blame it on Ron Logan? This is my personal opinion, and you can agree or disagree, and that's totally okay. You know, I'm okay with that. But what I do think is that they could not blame it on Ron Logan at that point because he was dead, and they needed to have a person. They needed to have a person that they were able to put in front of the public and say, this is the guy, this is who did it. If they just, you know, went, oh, it was Ron Logan, so we're just going to go ahead and close the case, that town would have like been upset. There was no way that they couldn't have an actual physical person. So they couldn't blame it on Ron Logan. They couldn't just go back and be like, hey, you know, let's just say it was Ron Logan. I think they needed to have the show. I absolutely believe they needed to have the show for the public. That's my opinion. Like I said, you're welcome to disagree, but that's what I think. Hey, Harry Potter's beard.
This is evidence. This is evidence in a case. How much weight you give it? Well, that's depends upon the jury. The soles of the boots will be in a burn pile. The next morning, two other girls knocked on his door to ask to search the property. He felt weird if he said no. He let them take off. Got a hold of a family member and got out of the area.
I agree.
These are what the notes say. These are the notes by the investigator interviewing the man who allegedly Ron Logan confessed to. Let's see what else comes from those notes.
Here, hold on. So for clarity, no one knew about this because of the gag order, but the defense knew about this all the entire time, correct? They just couldn't use it at trial, correct? Well, they tried to bring Ron Logan in and they said that there wasn't enough of a nexus, so they weren't allowed to have the third party. So I don't know how much of the Ron Logan stuff was argued. I don't really remember. Somebody in chat might remember from the hearing. I don't know how much of the Ron Logan stuff was argued, but she said that there was no nexus between any of them. I mean, the biggest nexus to Ron Logan is the fact that his phone is there, it's pinging there, but then they're like, well, he lives there, so it's not a big deal. And she wanted DNA. Well, they didn't have DNA for any of the third-party suspects.
Head, neck artery happening to friend to stand there during the struggle. Youngest girls talk about a struggle. First time he's seen them from the property. It's hard to make. They got exactly with these notes, but you get. Okay, this is another piece of evidence on another issue.
Yeah, absolutely.
That I'll get to right now because I want to get to your comments as well today. This is,
and it's also interesting because, like, looking back on it, we all knew about James Haas. So and you know, somebody just mentioned in chat like this was in the Franks, but it wasn't like detailed. I'm wondering how much is in the filings about Ron Logan that, like, for me personally, that I would have overlooked as just saying it was his confession to James Haas because we knew about that. You know what I mean? Like, so I'd have to like go back and actually like review some of the documents and see if I can like have any distinguishing, facts that would differ from Haas to Davis. Well, and even just in any of the filings where they talk about any of it.
Screenshots of a video with a timestamp on it. Okay, the timestamp was off by 12 hours. AM, PM, PM, AM. But it's clearly not 2:44 a.m. But this is 2:44 in the afternoon on the day that these girls were taken.
Great question, Sleuthy.
From the circuit. The prosecutor was extremely clear from the information I've gotten from the courtroom.
It's true, DB.
That the TOD, time of death, 2:30, 2:32, last activity on the phone. The phone stops moving. That's the time. The prosecutor was very specific in his argument and in his timeline of this case. And he said that Richard Allen was going to essay the girls, but was interrupted because there was a white van driven by Brad Weber coming back from work. And because of that van, then he moved somewhere else.
They know it's 12 hours off because it's daylight and it says it's 2:44 a.m. in military time. So it's 2:44 a.m. and it's daylight outside. So they know it's 12 hours off. And this is one of the things that I talked to Michael Osbrook about last night too. And he was like, this is exact. So if the prosecution can come forward and prove that the timestamp is off by 12 hours and 12 minutes, then that's what they can put in their response to the filing on the motion to correct error. They can say, no, that's not accurate. This is accurate. But here's the thing. If the prosecution knew that this video was 12 hours and 12 minutes off, or 12 hours and 16 minutes off, or whatever the hell, why wouldn't they have played this for the jury to prove that there is a van driving by at that exact time? So if the prosecutor knows that this is 12 hours and 16 minutes off, or whatever the hell it is, they would have played it and said, like, here you go. We have video of this van pulling up, and here's the affidavits that show that it's exactly, 12 hours and 16 minutes off. They didn't have that. So it'll be interesting if Nick actually comes back with a counter argument on that. They never cleared him. His date of death is January 2022, but I don't know the exact date.
So that van would have interrupted him sometime before 2:32. But now there is video. Again, that was part of the discovery of what appears to be a white van on its way to the area at 2:44.
And B, from reading it yesterday, it looks like they have 15 days to respond. So, but that was just from reading like the Indiana code on it. So I'm not sure, but from my understanding, they have 15 days to respond.
2:44. So this is after. This is after prosecutors say they're gone, but this is the van that, according to the prosecution timeline, arrived earlier and interrupted the essay. Now, the timestamp could be wrong. I guess I didn't calibrate it. But the timestamp.
At the press conference, Nick clearly states to Barbara McDonald that nobody else has been cleared. And he wouldn't use that terminology necessarily. And he continues on in his interviews, which we're going to talk about after we finish this. He continues on to do the exact same verbatim quote of Holman. The only person we had probable cause to arrest was Richard Allen.
And the red circle shows where I'm going to show you the video, but it's hard to see anything. They did a nice job in the papers they filed here circling it so you kind of get an idea of where it is and you get an idea of the time. And then they zoom in on it and you can see, is it a white Econoline van? Okay, I'll make it bigger.
It sure
does that
is.
look like a white Econoline van?
Sure does.
It does to me. It does to me. On the left side is the back. And then you can kind of see the windows. And then underneath you can see it's white. Obviously very pixelated, zoomed in, etc. But this would blow up the prosecutor's timeline that he argued to the jury. Now, if the timeline is wrong, does that mean that this is a not guilty? No. No, but his timeline's wrong. The argument he made to the jury is wrong. So the facts are off. I mean, you can't dispute that if this video is correct. If the timestamp is correct on this video at 2:44, that means what the prosecutor argued to the jury was not true. That Brad Weber in his white Econoline van interrupted the essay before 2:30. Be impossible based upon this video. But you have to accept the video. Do you? Maybe you do, maybe you don't. But prosecutors
That's right.
have put that in. And have filed their papers to preserve the evidence, and obviously they're going to fight for a new trial, and they want all this to be part of the new trial. Because they say this is evidence.
I am working on a documentary, and I'll go over it with Sleuthy. I am working on one, though.
This video does not fit the prosecutor's timeline. To me, that's problematic.
To me,
Remember
too,
what I
Vinny.
always say about the prosecution. Their obligation is to one thing and one thing only: the truth. The only way you get justice is through the truth. Truth and justice. Truth is justice. Justice is truth. It's the only job that a prosecutor has, is to get to the truth. That's when you get justice. But that argument is not the truth. That argument is not the truth. Take a closer look at this. I'm going to try to zoom in. I don't know if I can zoom in.
I don't think you can, Vinny.
If this is at 2:44, it's after 2:32. The entire timeline is off.
Oh,
So
really? I
now
don't remember that.
you are not arguing the truth to the jury. That's a problem. That's a huge problem. You can't do that.
No, you can't. That's kind of the
job.
whole
Right, now
point
let
of
me show you
this.
the video. I'll keep this up because I have the video.
Just
The video is
a friendly reminder.
here it is. This is the raw video.
Vinny was a
You gotta look to the
prosecutor.
top left and look for a little speckle driving by. So you
Little
can see how much it's been zoomed in. And you really got to look to that top left. There it goes. You see the little speckle moving? That's it. It's tiny. It's small. And you see the time, 2:44. Now I'm going to zoom in on this video so you can take another look at it, but
It's somebody vacuuming in the background. No way.
let's zoom in. I'm going to zoom in here.
DB, mine's an unseasonably warm day. I let the chat name it. He's got somebody back.
There we go.
Was it a blender?
Let me
Somebody's
back it
back.
up just a little bit. Let me back it up. Back. All right.
He's like, go.
Take a look. It's
Just
gonna be
go.
zoomed in.
Go over
And
there
look
and
for the
back.
speckle again. It'll be starting from left to right. From left to right. Left to right. There she goes. There goes the van.
There goes the van.
Take a look. Take a look. It's behind the trees now. More difficult to see.
Yeah, but we know that
There,
she
you can
was
see it
light
still
green.
going. Are you watching? I can see it. Still moving. And now I'm losing it.
The video is
Now
from
I'm
the
losing it.
Sandifer's
All right,
house.
I'm gonna zoom in even more. Do one more zoom for you.
Ironic,
Zoom in more.
because Travis Sandifer is also Odin. I mean, just another throw that out there.
This is surveillance video from a home. Prosecutors had this since the beginning.
I could totally see Lana.
Buried in the discovery.
Brad Weber, why'd you
Let me see if
lie?
I can zoom this. I think I do one more zoom. Oh, here it is. This is the ultimate zoom.
Oh, the ultimate zoom.
Here we go. This is the ultimate zoom.
Hey, Dan.
Let's see if we see it. Should be coming up any second. There we go. I see movement on the left. There it
Oh,
goes.
there it is. Vinny's
goes
so
the van.
excited. It's like a kid in a candy store.
There it goes. Now the clearest image is what the defense had. They had time to go through this piece by piece. So if the timestamp is right, and accurate. And this is Brad Weber.
He went the hard
coming
way.
home from work at 2:44. Don't forget, his phone is pinging at 2:50. His phone is pinging at 2:50.
Brad Weber, where's your fucking toe?
Oh, I zoomed it even more.
Oh my God, he's so excited.
See what we can see here.
He's so excited that he
zoom.
zoomed it even more.
There you can see some movement. There it goes.
There it goes, Vinny.
Now, you really got to peel your eyes. I'm gonna go. I'll go back to their pictures. Their images to me are the clearest here. Which is right. Let me find it.
There it goes. Left to right.
There we have it. I'm trying to get back to that point right here. So they have it circled. They have it circled, and then here it is. That's the best.
Don't make me bring out the toe.
That's the best you're gonna get. Right there. That's the best you're gonna get. But it's white. I mean, to me, it's white. It's got the window shaping of a van in the back and on the side. So that's a problem. That's a problem. You can't make an argument that's not true. In what world do we make arguments that aren't true? Makes no sense. No sense. So you've got a jailhouse confession. Take it with a grain of salt, just like you take his jailhouse confessions with a grain of salt.
Mm-hmm.
Right? Those things are just different.
Happy a white van.
Those things are just different. Let's go back to it. Currently incarcerated at the Newcastle Correctional Facility. Received a call.
For anybody who, I'll bring the map back up. We did this last night too, but I'll show you guys in case you guys missed last night's stream. I'll just show you guys kind of where we're looking at here. So here's the bridge. Here's the, let me get my mouse to work. Here's the crime scene. Okay. Here's the Weber property. Here's your private drive, which is North 625 West. So this is private up to here. There's a gate that you actually have to go through to get back there. And then this takes you out down here by Abby's house. So the camera is actually here at this house, right here, facing west northwest. So it's facing over here. So you're seeing the van driving by and going onto the private drive, which I mean, there's nobody should be going onto the private drive, right? Besides the people who live back here, and the only person who lives back here are the Webers. And we know Kay Weber's in Arizona, and that Brad Weber's staying at her house. And then we have the whole thing that there is this white van that he's driving that the prosecutor puts into evidence as that's why, you know, Richard Allen freaks out and goes across the creek, which we know isn't possible if the van isn't driving by until 2:44. So this kind of just tells you this is the house that the camera is at over here. So you can see kind of the angle that you're working with and how much there is to how much acreage there is. So I think nowadays, you know what, I probably shouldn't even say it because I'm not 100%, but I think that they actually have created some type of like man-made where they can go out down this way. But I don't know that for sure, but I've heard things about that. So just FYI. So this is the house with the camera facing over here. We're watching the van drive by. This is the private drive. Nobody else should be driving on it. Let me see. Yeah, they could see who's coming up 252, West 252 North. There's the hand. Ah! All right, hold on. Where are we at? Over here. Okay. Where are you going, Sleuthy?
From Davis, advising he is in the same block as Ron Logan, owner of the land. Don't forget about that connection, that nexus. This isn't out of left field. This guy owns the vast private property where Abby and Libby were found. Logan confessed to it step by step. And to me, the things that jump out is the box cutters, right? The box cutters.
So when Doug Rice, who is known as Better Beat Poet on Reddit, he was a local, he's passed away now, but he went around and did he literally was like the journalist that I think Andy Baldwin really would have enjoyed, because he went around and just asking anybody and everybody questions and just trying to talk to anybody about what happened. And he was at the Weber's house and he took some photos, and in the photos from the front of the Weber's house, you can see the area of the crime scene. So that's the biggest one that I know of when it comes to that. She is? Can't believe it. His Subaru, DB asked, what color, and I don't know what year it was, but the color is like blue black. I have that photo. Don't you have that photo? You have that photo, right? It's in the front of the house. It's like a blue black. It's dark. Let me see if I have it handy. I'll keep playing Vinny while I look for it.
That's either a great guess by this inmate who's looking for something.
That's good. No, I love her.
Or it's an actual confession
Well,
by a man who is no longer alive to defend himself. And I will remind you one more time, Barbara McDonald, Court TV senior producer, spent a lot of time with Ron Logan.
It was Navy.
She was covering and investigating this case, long conversations, and never once did he deny it. He never confessed to it. But what he said was, they can't prove it. He didn't say, I didn't do it.
I'm going to switch this one off. You can watch the
can't
rest on Vinny's channel. After I find, hopefully I can find this.
Where we are in all of this. And that's why we're talking about Delphi, despite the fact that there was a trial, a conviction, and a sentencing.
I'm in the folder with the toe. Do you guys want the toe?
Okay. So there was all of this, but despite the fact that there was all of this.
You guys want the toe, don't you? Who wants the toe?
And to me, that's a significant part of this. Providing information that is.
I'm just saying. Hold on. So we know that this is like a recording of me. So why do I have this recorded? Van. Anybody remember? Let me see. Well, I think this was for Twitter. I think that's why this is. Oh, it doesn't have the van in it or the Subaru in it. I don't know where that photo is. The toe, everybody. What the fuck is the toe? Somebody doesn't know what the toe is. I think we need to show the toe. No toe. Did you hear what he just said about? Yes. So she says that on the one from last night too. That he just says, you guys cover your eyes. Ah, the toe. Show the toe. This is Brad Weber. This is Brad Weber's toe. Everybody here that follows this channel really, really loves it when I show the toe. That's the toe. But all right, I'll get rid of it. I don't know where that photo is, DB, but if I find it, I'll send it to you. I mean, it should be pretty handy because I just used it on a live not that long ago, but I don't know what the fuck I did with it. So I told you. You're sick. All right, so let me get you guys. I'll drop this link in here real quick. If you guys want to go finish watching Vinny's live, feel free. We are at only 36 minutes into an hour and a half live. So But we're gonna go over because we still want to talk about Nick's, and then I didn't know that Sleuthy was gonna go on Don't Hate Creates channel and talk Delphi, so I want to make sure I'm over there to support that. And Sleuthy, can you make sure that she has it set up where I can reroute people? You guys if you're here, you got to know about the toe. You got to know about the toe. Okay, so that's Vinny's. You guys want to watch it? It's just the tip, you guys. Come on, it's just the tip. All right, let's get rid of more Vinny over here. I'm glad we watched that together. Okay, so let's talk about. Okay, so first things first. I haven't got to go through all of the info from his interview with the duo that shall not be named. But there was a couple things right off the bat that I did notice that he actually, they asked about if he knew the girls. Okay, so first I should ask you guys, has anybody actually listened to it? Has anybody listened to the interview that the duo did with Nick McLeland? Don't make me bring back the hand. You want the hand back? Oh shit. Where'd the hand go? Oh, there it is. It's over here. There's the hand. Nope. Okay. No thanks. Yeah, I have not listened to it either. So, okay, we have one yes. No, yeah, I have not listened to it, but I do have the transcripts, because that's how I find out things. But there is something that they ask him about, and I think I have it up over here. So let me actually stop my screen real quick because I don't need them coming after me for sharing anything. So I'll move this to my other screen so I can tell you what is exactly said. So for anybody who isn't aware, there was a big thing at the beginning of the case about that Nick should recuse himself because of his relationship with the family. So Nick's dad, Nick's uncle was married to Libby's grandma. I know it's going to be like the 5 degrees of separation or whatever, but does that make sense? So Nick's uncle, dad's brother, was married to Brad German, who's Libby's grandpa. So related to the Patties. It's old news, right? Yeah. So his answer to this question, hopefully it's still highlighted and didn't go away since I moved it over here. So I just want to tell you, so this is how he explains it. This is how he explains his connection to the families. And I thought, no fucking way. Like, he's really downplaying this because it was a really big deal. Like, it was like brought up to him and everything. So he says, I knew the families, I knew the girls, I'd seen the girls in the community, just that when we would go to basketball games on Friday nights or out in the community and around. I knew the families. The family grew up with my family, both the Germans and the Patties. So they knew my family. We weren't close or anything like that, but we definitely knew of each other. We knew of each other. Some of the Patties went to school with some of the McLeland's generation before me. Same thing with the Germans. And so we definitely knew each other, I guess you'd say. And I was like, you got to be fucking kidding me. You really downplayed that. It's a tiny little finger. Look at this tiny little finger. I was like, wow, all right then. Yeah, you just kind of knew them from being around, and that, your ancestors and their ancestors, they just knew of each other. So that's it. Yeah, in the town of 3,000. And your aunt is now married to Libby's grandma. Okay. Okay, you say so. The hand is freaking me out. It looks like it's going to walk. Oh, shoot. I didn't show that one that DB sent me. Okay. I have a couple other things highlighted. But like I said, I haven't gone through the whole thing yet anyway. But he does say in this interview, again, with the duo, that the only person they had probable cause to arrest was Richard Allen. Okay. Here we go. I have not seen this whole thing yet. I've only seen bits and pieces of it.
It's a beast of a trial to deal with. What was that like for you, first and foremost, as a prosecutor, to tackle a trial of this magnitude, first off, lengthwise, not even discussing the content?
Do you think that she sleeps with curlers in her hair? Like back in the day? Like when you put like all the big giant curlers in?
It was difficult.
Yeah, a month-long trial. It's a beast of a trial to deal with. What was that like for you, first and foremost, as a prosecutor, to tackle a trial of this magnitude, first off, lengthwise, not even discussing the content?
It was difficult. Obviously, it's the longest trial I've ever had, lasting, those 4 weeks, and the amount of information that was involved was more than I'd ever dealt with as well. And so it just took a lot of organization and making sure that each day we had planned out what we hoped to accomplish that day in trial. And then, logistically organizing to make sure the witnesses were there. We had exhibits copied. And so it was a huge task.
What was that like for you preparation-wise? I mean, we talk about preparing for any trial. It takes time for any attorney to prepare for a trial. What was it like for you to prepare for a trial, A, in general speaking, but B, just the importance that it kind of felt like community, the world, all these people watching? What was that like for you preparation-wise?
Well, of course, you're under more scrutiny when it's a case that has as much.
I really want to know what happened to his nose. Like, does anybody actually know what happened to his nose?
Publicity as this case did, and you have this sense of obligation that you want to do the best you can and make sure that you're completely prepared. And so, you have that extra pressure, but in terms of preparation, you kind of just go through the same routine that you would with any trial. Just in this case, the trial is going to be lengthwise, it's going to be longer with more witnesses and more exhibits than I dealt with in the past, but you try to go through your same routine, and you don't want to change your routine just because it is a trial that has more publicity. And so I just tried to go through my same routine. I organized my exhibits, my witnesses, the same as I would for any trial. And so I just tackled it that way.
You just mentioned it, but the publicity on this case was like nothing else, really. One of the biggest, if not the biggest case Carroll County has seen. As a defense lawyer before being elected prosecutor, coming into this process, did that play a role in kind of how you decided to do things or your strategy going in?
I think just your experience in general, whether it's you start off as a defense attorney.
I have to say that all the attorneys and everybody that was in the courtroom actually said that he did a very good job. So, I don't know. He could be a great attorney. I was not at the courthouse. I did not go to any of the hearings. I was not at the trial. So, but a lot of people said he did a really good job as the prosecutor. So, and his fingers look normal here. It's got to be an angle thing, because look how long his thumb is. So if his pinky's that tiny, that would just be weird.
Or whether you just start off as a prosecutor and have a career as a prosecutor, I think your experience as an attorney is what plays into your decisions on witness order, what exhibits to put in, all those kind of things. I do think, as being a defense attorney, it gives me that unique experience to kind of view things from the other side. So when you start to think about what strategies the defense will have or what defenses they'll put forward, I think it gives me a unique perspective that I've been on that side. But I think prosecutors who have been career prosecutors have those experiences too that give them that, that advantage. So I think it's just your experience in general that gives you the knowledge and the wherewithal to say, okay, what order am I going to put the witnesses in? What exhibits are we going to produce to the court? In this situation, this is the first time I had worked with two other attorneys on a case.
Oh, there it is. There's the photo. I don't know, that there's something weird with that.
We would have open discussions about what is the best way to move forward, what is the best strategy for trial, what is the best witness order, those kind of things. So it's very much a group effort. It wasn't one person making the decisions.
We talk about public view and you talk about this case in general. I mean, it captivated so many people, not just from Carroll County, surrounding communities, the state, really nationwide, so many people being interested in this case. And really, because of that, there's kind of been this whole like cottage industry, if you will, true crime people, you know, interested in learning about the case, people just talking about the case, all the noise that's happening, whether it's after trial, before trial, standing outside of the courthouse. How did that impact you as the prosecuting attorney in this case?
You try to block it all out and try to focus, like you said, just on the facts of the case, because what happens on a YouTube true crime channel or, you know, through the media, that doesn't really affect the case. You've got to focus on the evidence that you have and the facts of the case. And so you try to block it out. Now,
doesn't affect the case. So whatever happens on YouTube or on, you know, on our kinds of videos doesn't affect the case, but yet they want a gag order in place so that nobody can tell us what's actually going on inside the case.
It's impossible to block it all out, especially when it's in your face, when you're leaving the courthouse. Obviously, it affected, I think, probably the family more than me, because there were some personal attacks on the family. I expect personal attacks as the prosecutor. I expect not everybody's going to like me. And so I kind of expected it and didn't bug me.
Right.
I guess you'd have to ask the family whether it got to them or not. I think some of the community members, it got to them because just so many people bad-mouthing Delphi as a whole in Carroll County and you know, unjustly doing that. But for me, I just tried to block it out as much as I could and focus on, okay, what do we want to present at trial and what are the facts that we can prove?
How difficult was that for you to combat that? Here's what's happening in the courtroom and here's what's spreading like wildfire outside the doors.
I guess that's kind of a two-part question. For the pretrial phase, my concern was that we were going to taint any kind of jury pool that we had a hope of getting. And so that was my biggest concern, that we're not going to be able to get a jury pool that hasn't heard about this case or hasn't formed an opinion, because there was so much outside noise coming in and so many podcasts and YouTube channels and all these different things who were reporting on it. And so pre-trial, that was my main concern. It didn't really affect me in terms of preparing for the case, but when selecting a jury, I was of the concern of, okay, are we really going to be able to get a jury that hasn't formed an opinion about this case already based on something they've seen in the outside world? And
this is just the irony behind this. It's like he didn't even need to worry about the jury knowing anything from podcasters. He actually needed to worry more about his own fucking witnesses talking to podcasters and giving out information that the defense didn't even know yet.
I've never dealt with a case that has much publicity as this, so there's a legitimate concern in this case. When you get to trial, again, I really didn't have a concern because the jury was sequestered. And so I felt pretty confident that they weren't getting all that outside noise. When we get to trial, my biggest concern was the safety of witnesses we had coming into the courthouse, the safety of
witnesses
the family coming in and out of the courthouse, and just then the safety of the officers working the courthouse and the grounds around the courthouse, because my concern was that a YouTuber, podcaster, or somebody else was going to fuel the fire for somebody who would act on those emotions and do something drastic, either intentionally mess up the trial, say something when they're in the audience, cause a ruckus in the courthouse, put the officers in danger, put witnesses in danger. So those are my concerns.
So he thinks that the podcasters are going to put his witnesses or like the family or the guards in danger based on the fact that we don't believe their theory of the case. He does not talk about the fact that there are podcasters and YouTubers that have gone out of their way to, some even threatening to hurt a defense attorney. What the fudge?
With kind of the outside publicity.
And some weren't even supposed to be in the courtroom that were allowed in the courtroom.
Not so much with the facts of the case.
You mentioned some of it about, you know, sequestering the jury, pooling the jury, hoping that you're going to get a jury that, you know, whether they've heard about the case, haven't heard about the case, but ultimately a jury that has no formed opinion. Do you feel Richard Allen had a fair trial?
Yes.
No.
How do you feel in terms of the sequestering process with the jury? Do you think it went smoothly, or how difficult was it for your team to cultivate that jury?
Well, we didn't have anything. I mean, we didn't have any responsibility with having them sequestered. That was all on the staff from Allen County. I think they did a great job because they didn't allow the jury to be contacted by outside sources, and they took all those necessary steps. So I think they did a great job. once we started the trial, we didn't have any concern about them being sequestered. We trusted that the Allen County staff was going to take care of that. And again, we just focused on what we had to present. A lot of it is, it's not tunnel vision, but a lot of it is keeping your eye on the ball and just focus on what you have to present and not getting caught up in all that. And so that's what we did.
Case had lots of ups and downs, I think, with anybody who was in there, I'm sure for the prosecuting team too. Are you surprised that Richard Allen didn't testify?
No, being a defense attorney for as long as I was, that's always the big question. Do you have the defendant testify? It's a catch-22. They have the absolute right not to testify. And if they don't testify, then you're relying on evidence either the prosecutor put out or that you can get out through other witnesses. If they don't testify, the jury is not able to hear them say, I didn't do it. And I think that's a big thing for juries to hear. On the other hand, if you have them testify, you open them up to cross-examination and open them up to oftentimes a lot of hard questions that are going to be hard for them to answer, which could make them look equally as bad in front of a jury. And so it's always, each case you have to look at individually. And so I wasn't surprised he didn't testify, but I wouldn't have been surprised if he did. We were prepared if he did testify.
She asked
questions that we were going to ask him. But that's always a very tough decision as a defense attorney, whether or not you have your client testify. And you oftentimes have to make that decision in the fly. Is it going to help me or is it going to hurt me? And so we were prepared for either way they went. And so I guess I wasn't surprised, but I wouldn't have been surprised if he had testified as well.
Speaking of the jury, in your opinion, what do you think did it for the jury? What do you think was that tipping point to reach that guilty verdict?
I don't know. One of my pet peeves is when people tell me how I feel or what to think. And I'm not going to sit here and tell the jury, they should have hung their hat on this. Or
his biggest pet peeve is people who tell him how to feel.
Should have made a decision based on this. In my mind, I would like to think it was just the totality of the circumstances, the totality of all the evidence that we had. And so I don't know if there was one specific thing. And again, you have 12 individuals who all have different life experiences and think differently. So what may have been the deciding factor for one juror may not have been the deciding factor for the other. One juror may have bought into or believed in the science of the ballistics. One juror may have said, okay, the timeline is what I hung my hat on. One juror may have said the confessions. In my mind, it was just a totality of everything that led to the conviction. But again, that would be a question for the jurors. I don't want to try to tell them what they think or tell them what they should have hung their hat on.
When you hear that word theory really just being thrown out and about, as a prosecutor,
just the word theory is just being thrown out and about. Like literally his entire case is his theory. And it's been now proven completely bullshit. So what do you think, Nick? What do you think of that word theory just being thrown out and about? What a great question.
When you hear the word thrown around, what goes through your mind when you hear this word theory thrown around the way that it has been?
I'm just gonna fucking say that.
I've said this before and I'll stick to it. It's okay if you want to use the word theory, but you got to back it up with evidence. And if you want that theory to become a truth, you got to have evidence to back it up. And we live in.
Oh my God, no fucking way. He says if you're going to use the word theory and if you have to back it up with evidence.
Die by the burden of proof of beyond a reasonable doubt. And so if you can prove a theory beyond a reasonable doubt, then to me it becomes a truth in the court of law. And until then, it's just a theory, and that's just what it is. It's an idea of what you thought happened. And so I don't have a problem with people throwing that word around, but where's the evidence to back it up?
Yeah.
There's been so much time where neither side had an opportunity to say much. It was under the gag order, obviously, for quite some time. What to you did the gag order mean?
Gag order to me was just a reiteration or a re-emphasis on the rules of professional conduct that we're bound by. And that is that you should not put out anything in the public that's going to try to taint the jury or elicit a response from the public. And we're bound by those rules. And the gag order is just an emphasis of that to say,
no. You
don't talk about this case in the public. Don't put out press releases that try to, condition the public to whether Richard Allen was guilty or innocent. And mainly that was done so that we can get
a little dig at the defense right there. Press releases. No, you put out something the day before. Diff nut. Seriously? What about your press conference on October 31st? Did you forget about that one? You've got to be kidding me with this.
jury that's not tainted or biased try to,
Right, back up.
condition the public to whether Richard Allen was guilty or innocent. And mainly that was done so that we can get a jury that's not tainted or biased. I really had a fear that we were
doing press
regardless of how many
conferences
people that we subpoenaed in to be for jury duty, that we weren't going to find 12 that hadn't heard about this case. And so it was a real concern for me. And I wanted to be able to get 12 people who didn't form an opinion about this case, were unbiased, so that we could have a
thing. I wanted to put my theory out there, and then I wanted Judge to gag everything and hide everything so that the public and these potential jurors only know my theory of the case that I told them in that press conference. Hide everything else.
fair trial, not only for the state, but for Richard Allen.
Fucking liar.
You got that.
Yes.
Bullshit.
It's so easy these days, I think, to electronically disseminate anything. I mean, still to our newsroom,
Yeah.
we get leaked crime scene photos, that photo that was leaked.
Sure.
As the prosecutor, do you think there should be something in place to try to protect evidence like this? Or do you think that there should be a safeguard of sorts or anything to try to prevent things like that from happening?
I think the lawyers are the safeguard, both the state and the defense. I think we are the safeguard. We have an obligation to protect that confidential information and sensitive information that we get in discovery. I think we have to be the safeguard. Is there a better way to do it? Police it? I don't know. But I think we as attorneys have a responsibility, especially dealing with children. And if children are victims of things, children's statements, photos of children, photos of the crime scene that involve children. I'm not saying that we shouldn't do that with photos of crime scenes that involve adults, but I think we have an extra level of care and duty to protect those things that involve children victims. So I think the attorneys are the safeguard. Is there a better safeguard? If there is, I don't know what it is.
Talk about why that's so important to you.
That why Holman spent his entire time making sure that every photo of the girls was gone, was not on the internet. We just said, hey, delete it and we'll all be good.
Because as a mom myself, obviously, I would never want photos like that of my child to be circulating. No one in their right mind would want to. Why is that so important to you to let people know, hey, this is not okay?
Why is this? This is not even.
It was important at the press conference because I think that we've gone down this road with a lot of the YouTubers and podcasters and even some media that it's all about how many people can I get to tune in or how many clicks can I get? How many followers can I get? And we'll do any means possible to get those followers, to get another follower or to increase that number. And that goes as far as showing the crime scene where, there's two girls that are dead, one of which is naked. And I just wanted to really emphasize that you can tell this story without those photos. And whether you want to believe it or not, if you pass those photos on, you're part of the problem. And we can never, law enforcement did our best to scrub the internet of those photos when they were leaked, but it is an impossible task. If it gets sent to one person, like you said, it's so easy to disseminate stuff. Once it gets sent to one person and it's on the internet, if it gets posted on Twitter or Facebook or wherever, it's out there in the internet and you can never get it back. And so I was really emphatic about saying, don't use these photos to get more clicks or to get more.
Let's use these photos to try to elicit emotion from the jury so that they feel like they have to convict the person I told them did it.
Readers of your story, use something else because the only way, Becky Patty said, is generational. The only way we're going to stop those things from being,
he's not married,
I guess, published through the internet is if we get people to stop sending them forward.
How did the heaviness play a role or a toll in you as the prosecutor? I mean, I can't imagine the time and the hours that are put into a case like this on top of the heaviness of it.
Yeah, the time and hours, I mean, obviously myself, Jerry Holman, Indiana State Police, my investigator, Steve Mullen, everybody involved spent a ton of time trying to track down how the leak occurred and then spent a ton of time trying to scrub the internet of those photos. And so that just takes on top of everything else you're doing with the case. And so it is a huge amount of work to try to do that. The toll, I tried not to think about it much during the trial because you don't want to get consumed with emotion where you kind of take your eye off the ball. I think afterwards it hit me a little bit harder to think, okay, these pictures are still out there and they're of these two little girls. And I think I have so much compassion for the family and how they feel when I mean, people were sending them those photos and, you know, saying, hey, these are out there and
Yeah,
those kind of things. So it really took
I'll
an
agree with
emotional
Nick on
toll
that.
on me afterwards, because I started thinking about the family and kind of the words that Becky said hit home pretty hard, that it's generational. And, you know, just what I said at the press conference, what if it was your children? And so during the trial, it angered me that those were out there. I no reason for those to be out there. I don't care what kind of story you want to publish. You don't need those pictures to promote that story, in my opinion. And so it really angered me. And then afterwards, yeah, it's emotional to think, you know, I have kids too. And it's just emotional to think, you know, what if those are my girls? You know, what if they were pictures or my nieces or my sisters? Or
So generational is something that Becky Patty said in her victim impact statement. She talked about the fact that these photos were out there. Once again, also nothing to do with the trial, but that it seems to be something that they continuously want to bring up. When in the victim impact statement, they brought it up in the post-sentencing press conference. He's bringing it up here in this interview. I haven't gotten through the duo transcript, so I don't know if it's brought up there, but I would assume it is, since they were a major part of the entire thing. But so Becky Patty essentially says, like, these photos being out there, it's like her grandchildren are going to see it. They're, you know, her great grandchildren are going to be able to see them. They're going to be on the internet forever, and so it's harmful to generations to come of Libby's family, Libby's nieces and nephews, you know, so on and so forth.
or whatever the case may be. So
Outside of the leaked photos, just the case itself. I mean, as a parent yourself, as somebody who has to go home and take care of kids,
sure,
it's challenging. I know the toll it took on me, not even just being home. I can't imagine the hours that have to go into preparing for something like that. Caseload, generally speaking, outside of the leaked photos, can you share what that was like for you and how you navigated?
there are days you get overwhelmed and you want to just quit, and, you know, because you have 2 or 3 things going on. You may have another fire to put on in the office, or another case came in that you have to deal with on top of the stuff for Richard Allen. And there are days you get overwhelmed, but you just have to, I guess, go ahead, organize it in a way where you're just accomplishing one task at a time and try not to get overwhelmed. But there definitely are days that you get overwhelmed and think, I have so much to do. I don't know how I'm going to do all this. Obviously, a lot of sleepless nights, a lot of time away from family and friends, a lot of missed family events, and you just have to sacrifice that to put the work in that's necessary for the case. And so, you know, we're paid for 37 hours a week, and that's just what we are. You're not working 37 hours a week when you're working on this kind of case. I do not know how many hours. I don't know that I want to know how many hours I put in on it, but a bunch.
Generally speaking, you talked about it, but how does one not take something like that home, the heaviness home? How does one not let it get to them?
I don't know.
They're not even paid for 40.
You just learn to leave, I guess, that part at home. I mean, you think about it all night and all day when you're at home with your kids or with your family. You think about it. In this case, it was hard to get away with it get away from it because, you know, my family wants to talk about it. My friends want to talk about it. Everybody wants to talk about it and wants to know what's going on. But you kind of just have to be able to put it to the side and enjoy the time that you have away, because that's your time to recharge. So when you come back, you can, you know, work on the case again. So it's not easy, but it's just something you learn. I think probably all attorneys have this ability where they can kind of put those cases aside and put the emotion aside and, you know, still go home and enjoy time that you have with friends and family.
Waiting for the verdict probably felt like forever. I mean, people keep saying 19 and a half hours. It was more than 19 and a half hours. The jury was deliberating for 19 and a half hours, but there was time, obviously, that you're sitting there, you're waiting, you're wondering. Walk me through that time with you guys and the prosecuting team of the longer you waited. What was that like for you guys?
It's always hard waiting for the jury to come back. And I imagine if you took a poll of 50 attorneys, you'd have half that say, oh, it's better if they come back quick, and half that say they come back, you know, it's better if they come back or take longer to decide. I don't know, but it is, I guess, it's tough to wait. And it wasn't so bad the first couple of days. The Sunday that we had off between the Saturday and the Monday where the jury was off and we didn't have to come into court and we're just home, that was a hard day because you're just wondering, what are they doing? What are they thinking? So the waiting is always tough for me. It may not be for other attorneys, but it always is for me.
How much second guessing do you do during that? Did I do this right?
think
Did I do that right? Should I have
every
done this
said the same
differently?
thing.
I think you always do that. I mean, I can't tell you how much, but you're always going to second guess. Should I have done this? Should I have objected there? Should I have not put that in the evidence? For me, that's normal. Even if I think I put on a very strong case and I'm confident the jury's going to come back with guilty, I still wonder, should I have done that? Would that have been the thing they hung their hat on? Because you don't know at the end of the day what the jury's going to make their decision on.
When it comes to cameras in the courtroom, do you think that impacted the trial, or would it have been differently if there was cameras in the courtroom?
I don't know. I've never done a trial with cameras in the courtroom, so I can't really answer that question. I don't know.
Well, we asked him, why didn't you want cameras?
Automatically going into this, assume that if you get that guilty verdict, there could be an appeal process.
See, his pinky was fine that way.
Especially with a murder charge, and the fact that the sentence was what it was. Even the minimum sentence on these kind of charges is 45 years. So I think in any kind of murder conviction, you expect an appeal. We expected it. We expected it from day one, that if we get a guilty verdict, he's going to appeal it. And so, yeah, that's something we're ready for.
What is your role should an appeal happen? I know it's obviously been discussed. They're heavily saying they're going to do it. He's been appointed attorneys.
The Attorney General's office will represent the state of Indiana, and the Attorney General will appoint probably one or two attorneys to handle the appeal. Our role at that point, myself, Stacey Diener, James Luttrell, becomes more of a supportive role. Help them with any documentation they need to review. If they have questions about what happened in the courtroom or how something was presented, we're there support for them to say, what information you need, let us help you get it. We know where that's at, because we're the people in the courtroom trying it and they're not. So we're just a supportive role.
Should an appeal go through, do you prosecute it again?
When you say, should an appeal go through? If an appeal goes through and the Court of Appeals says something was done wrong and it has to be retried, do we try it again? Absolutely.
You couldn't talk for so long. Is there anything you want to say that you want people to know or take away from, whether it's this case or the impact it had on the community, or where do you go from here?
I don't know. I guess if I had to say anything, just thank you to everybody that helped along the way. And I always forget names, but Doug Carter, Jerry Holman, Steve Mullen, Stacey Diener, James Luttrell, my staff, all the investigators, Rich Davies, all Brian Harshman, just, the list is endless. I said this the other day, that I could not have done this by myself. And I did not do this by myself. Though all those law enforcement officers, Stacey and Jim, the attorneys that helped me do it, they deserve as much praise as I'm getting. That's a fact.
You're getting praise? I thought you were being harassed.
For as compassionate as they were throughout that, and just that they were able to abide by the gag order and not say anything.
How important was that for you to please abide by the gag order?
It was important to me. It's an order from the court. And so
I
respect the court's order, and
you
I'm
requested
everything to follow it. And again, I wanted to make sure we had a fair jury for us and Richard Allen. That was my main goal.
You did not.
To say, look, let's just not say anything so we can get a jury that's fair and unbiased, so we all are on even playing ground when we go into the courtroom.
No, you wanted a press conference where you put your narrative out there and then wanted to shut down any other narrative that there could possibly be. It says who the interviewer is. Let me see if I can. Oh, maybe it's not here. Hold on. I'll tell you who it is. Somebody was asking. It is Caitlin Kendall. Is that right? Caitlin Kendall with WRTV. So I did hear that she's supposedly one of the ones that was cutting in line, and then I also heard that that she was at the press conference afterward, and I don't know, maybe there was a hug exchanged. I'm not sure about that, but yeah, I heard that she was the line jumper, the line cutter. She cut in line for the verdict. Caitlin Kendall, she has, yeah, she does. I think that if that's what, does that look like her? Let me show you. Let me bring my screen back up. So the article that has all the interview in it is by Caitlin Kendall. I heard she was hugging Nick, but I don't know. I don't remember that. So, but this is, I think that's her, Caitlin Kendall. And then if you go to her bio, this is her. Says that she's an Emmy Award-winning anchor and journalist who is thrilled to wake up every morning with you on Good Morning Indiana. Does that sound right? There's some interesting shots here that are not, like, they're talking, but that's not in the interview. Like, they're walking and talking, but that's not, there's no walking and talking in the interview. What's this? Oh, the crime scene. So yeah, apparently she does the Good Morning Indiana show. So I don't know. You want me to link this? You want her bio or this article? Her bio? Or I'll link her bio. I don't know what an Emmy Award-winning anchor and journalist. I don't know. I didn't read this, so I don't really know. Franklin Central graduate. Extensive amount of time covering the Delphi double murder trials. It's a story she first started in 2017 when they went missing. She remembers being in Delphi the day the girls were reported missing while interning in Indianapolis. The trial, a full circle moment for Caitlin's journalism career as she worked to share stories outside the scope of the courthouse. She earned a number of Emmys from her roles as a journalist and field anchor for WRTV. Many of these awards were for her contributions and efforts to honor some of Indiana's fallen heroes. Her favorite stories to share, though, are the ones that leave smile on people's faces. So I don't want to show her kid too much. She's got a picture of her kid in here, so in her bio. So, all right, well, we've been on for 2.5 hours, and I know Sleuthy is over on Don't Hate Creates channel. I do have it set to portal everybody over there to go listen to what they have to say. I'll head over there myself. I got to figure out dinner for the family. I'll be back tomorrow. I don't know exactly. I have a couple different things that I wanted to talk about. I don't know exactly what we're going to cover tomorrow, but I'll be back tomorrow to talk about something. So maybe I'm gonna send you guys over to Don't Hate Creates channel. So like I said, it'll portal you guys straight over there, and Sleuthy and Sterling are on panel with her. So thank you guys very much for being here. Thank you for watching Vinny with me. Freaking love Vinny. I don't know anything about Stacey Diener's interview yet, but I do know that the duo that shall not be named did interview her, and 2 parts came out today. So, but anyway, I know you guys have 1,000 other places you could spend your time, and yet you choose to spend your time here with me. And I thank you guys for that, and I will see you over at Don't Hate Creates. Have a good one.
Do you dare to follow me down? Head into the unknown, down the rabbit hole, where it stops, no one